Okay.
We're doing it. We're here. We're back like we never left.
Like we never left.
What's this thing called a recording device?
I know. I don't recognize it. It's a lot of bright lights. Would you like to start us off with a toast, Ellen?
Um, we've been gone for a minute. Now we back. It's the jump off. Ah, ah.
Cheers to that.
You are now watching Mind You Media.
Mind you.
We can't use that. We don't have the rights. You are now streaming Mind You Media.
Oh my god, I drank my green tea instead of my.
No, no,
That's embarrassing. Was it hot?
No, I just got it from the fridge.
Oh, okay. That's not bad. All right. I'm making my notes the correct size so we can get right into it.
Kristen looks lit, or is it just me?
I honestly think we all do. Maybe Kristen the least. Ellen does not look lit, but from that comment, I believe you are.
I never look lit. Until my shirt is off, and then
and you're on the bathroom floor. That's when you're lit.
That's when I've locked myself in the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's when I know I'm lit.
All right. Well, regardless, let's get into it. So
I'm offended because there's no alcohol in here. Okay.
Shit.
Oh, you haven't been drinking
at all?
No.
At all?
No. I told you I don't have any alcohol. I don't have.
Oh, right.
I don't know why you look so drunk.
That was
So I don't know how to. My apologies.
She fell.
You don't look it anymore, so I don't know what's going on.
Once I dispelled it.
Okay. All right. Moving right along. We're gathered here today to talk about. I want to start us off first. I don't think we can go forward without addressing the recent Kendrick Drake beef. Okay.
We've been addressing it, right?
Oh, that's true.
On our page, yeah.
It's all over our page. Please like, comment, subscribe. But
similarity between Drake and Robin.
Repost.
Yeah. Repost. We love a good repost. We want to dig deeper into some of the feedback we're getting, discourse we're seeing on TikTok in our comments. Okay. First of all, just the premise of they not like us opens up a big, a rich discussion. So, let's get into it. What are we talking about when we say they not like us?
I mean, ostensibly, Kendrick is coming at Drake's blackness, right? That's what's at least the surface text of the whole beef feud is Drake is in the mind of Kendrick or in the eyes of Kendrick and the people he claims to represent, cosplaying blackness, very conveniently picking up his credibility as a black man rapper through other memes or whatever.
And let me just say, the cosplay, the various accents, the Jamaican accent, all that really feeds into he really just put that on.
Yeah. People have been saying this about Drake for several years now, and those of us who were formerly Drake stans are embarrassed.
He wasn't doing it like that in 2011, just FYI.
But I mean, what's that called? What's that?
One Dance, right?
One Dance.
I was never a stan, let me just say, and everybody always thought I was crazy, but it just never hit for me.
You would now go, not me. I never was. Okay, well, some of us were, and when we are embarrassed now.
Yes. Yeah, let me let you come forward. That is so dirty. I apologize.
I saw someone on TikTok making strong points. I think, the point is, Drake is good at what he does. That's first of all. Drake is a strong writer. Now, the question of ghostwriters, who can say? But like, if early Drake was ghost writing for a lot of people, that man is a good writer. Okay, that's first of all. Second of all, like, like who? Okay, I'm not Jamaican, but I might break out in a Jamaican accent. Okay, I might. I'm West Indian. I grew up around Jamaicans. I grew up around Nigerians. I break out in all of those accents. Okay, I should have been cast on Mad TV.
I thought you were going to say cool. I thought you were going to say Cool Runnings.
No, Mad TV. Okay. The point is, it's not that per se, right? And I think the point is also like, if that were all that Drake was doing, people would not feel.
People were forgiving of him even doing that.
Yeah, they were speaking to something else, and there's probably like an industry insiderness that better understands, obviously, right? Like the way Kendrick delineates, like, when you went to Atlanta, you don't get into the club, you call Future. You can't do this, you ask this guy. You can't, right? So it's a way of saying, like, I know who your people are because we share some of the same networks. And I know that you just use and abuse people. You're a culture vulture, right? Like, obviously the lay listener to Drake doesn't know all of that about him. Like, and why would we? So
he broke out with one dance at the time. It's like, it wasn't an accumulated kind of practice in the same way that at this point it's kind of manifest. Like, okay, now you're doing the top boy rap like 21 Savage from Britain. You're doing the like it, and I think he had the grace of assumed blackness, which we'll get into.
Yes,
I think explains even more. Like, I might break out in a little Jamaican accent. Like, they're Jamaican, they're not black. Jamaican.
Exactly. And who is mad? Like, I'm not. Some of our commenters are. No, one commenter in particular who's a hater. Shout out to you, Double Star. The point is, like, who is mad at a black person who, like, also Toronto is a global city. New York is a global city. Miami is a global city. If we're talking London, global city. If we're talking about global cities, and you're talking about like being growing up, being like inculcated in these broader Black diasporic dynamics, those of us who are the descendants of Africans, Black people, like, nobody is mad at you for the ways that you grow up, the things you were exposed to and also took up as a part of your sensibility. Because like, to be Black from New Jersey, where I'm from, is to also be like Nigerian, is to be African American, is to be Jamaican, is to be Haitian. All of those things play into what it means to be Black where the fuck I'm from. So I'm not mad at Drake per se for going to Nigeria and doing what he's doing there, going to London and doing going to Jamaica, blah 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 blah. What we don't know, because we are listeners rather than like industry execs, producers, music people, is that when he takes like Dram's song, for instance, he then like makes it harder for Dram to make a living. Like, instead of putting Dram on, he like poaches from Dram, popularizes something Dram was doing, and then Dram gets erased from the picture. And partly that's about the way the industry works. It's like, there must only be one Black who is acceptable. That's right there. It's sort of that scarcity idea, because there could be multiple songs. We could rock to all of them. And if Drake were attentive to those dynamics, he would help. But he's probably a pick me, right? Like, and 100%. I mean, the point is not necessarily, although in a way it is, the point is not necessarily to like make a judgment about who Drake is as a person, although it is in a sense, like, and we'll get there. But the point, what we're raising right now, is that all of this raises a certain level of conversation. Yeah. Right? Like, puts a certain set of topics on the table for discussion. And we love a rich text. So to the extent that the Kendrick and Drake beef provides us a rich text, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about the text itself. That bop, that hit. Not Like Us. No.
Say, oh, yeah. Okay. We're gonna play it in the background at some point.
Okay. But Not Like Us being the song. Well, what is
pop out and show niggas? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, it's a great. I love that sentiment in general. Wait, your mic is going out. What are you saying?
Oh, sorry. The sometimes you gotta pop out and show niggas felt like it was meant for me.
Yes.
You're thinking because I'm in the cut that I'm asleep.
Yes.
I do have to pop out and show niggas.
Yeah.
The song itself called Not Like Us, it begs the question of the rich text of not just the song, but the beef itself. Like Kendrick is clearly taking up this cultural problem, situation, this question of Drake and his sense of belonging, his cultural, does he appropriate? Is he one of us? And so the question is always just like, well, what is this us? What is this them? What is the line between the two? Who arbitrates it? What is the line made of? Like, what is it arbitrating?
And I think the question actually doesn't occur to you because, like, if you're listening, have you seen white people dancing to this song on the internet? They do be
They were
dancing.
playing it at Disneyland. Okay. Yes, and then I saw this on TikTok, and then the DJ gets on the mic for the pedophile part. I'm like losing it. Like,
but okay, that speaks to some people are hearing this. Let's just say, like, white people might hear this song and think they are included in the they. When I cannot imagine what Kendrick meant by drawing a line around they was y'all. Like, it wasn't white people. That's not what he meant. That's not what he meant, right? And for me, it could be like those who are like Drake, and then we can think further about what is meant by Drake. But I think what also made this question occur to me, I'm like, or the fact that some people are drawing their lines in certain ways and other people are not, is once again the hater in our comments, an anonymous double star, who was like, y'all aren't Black American. I said, oh,
interesting.
Oh, wow.
She said, not only could you not speak to this, but I instantly knew that y'all, I knew it. Y'all would not have these takes. You have no right to speak about this. When we were commenting on Giselle. Okay.
Giselle and Drake's similarity, that somehow disqualifies us from weighing in on them? Like,
the lack of Black Americanness amongst us qualifies. For the record, once again, although I already
real quick
the comments, for the record, we are all Black, born in America. Are we waving the American flag behind us? No, girl, because niggas was enslaved by this American republic. Why? That's, and perhaps in the future, let us know if we need to make a video about that. But perhaps in the future we could talk about this, because of course there is a sensibility that falls under the banner of ADOS about, something about advancing the American part of the Blackness.
Yeah.
That don't work for me. It doesn't. Not merely because my parents were born in Haiti, but I identify as a Negro American, to the extent that is suggestive of certain kinds of affinities, right? Like what it means for the child of immigrants, Black immigrants, to be born in America is to be cultivated with a sense of themselves as American Black. And we can talk about, the tension between Black people from outside of the US and the whole hemisphere is called the Americas, by the way. But we can talk about the tension from Black people outside of the US versus those raised in the US with a long-standing relationship to the soil called the US. We can do that. But my sensibility, I'll note right now, exceeds a relationship, an affinity, an attachment, an embrace, an endorsement of the American Republic. Like, it's Black diaspora, period, descendant of Africa, period.
Right.
And in fact, to be a Black American of any sort, but let's go with double star here on this soil-based nationalism, means that you were never granted any kind of belonging by virtue of the slavery. So, in fact, your people are not the Americans proper, it's the slaves. So, there were slaves in Haiti, there were slaves in Jamaica, there were slaves torn from Africa. Like, so it's like that is the belonging that I'm over here like advancing, not the Americanness part of it, because that part has always been held in question.
I need, or say, go on.
Just, and if you want to disqualify the Canadians, somebody said Canadians think different. I said, I have been saying that for years. I have been saying that for years. But if you want to disqualify the Canadians are none other than the descendants of American slaves. Like,
Right.
you understand that, right? Like,
Right.
they are either Black people from the broader African diaspora, or they are the descendants of American slaves.
Right.
Just like in territory called Canada. Like,
so Double Star is sick, but what I will say, but she hits. I would also like to know where she lives, what her face looks like, her age, all of these things. What'd you say?
I said, stop hiding.
Yes, come out, wherever you are. But
drop out and show niggas.
You're not
ready.
Though Double Star has some clear just lapses in her comments, she is speaking. I mean, she could be a man, could be a gay man. Who knows?
But I think it's a she.
She clearly, though, is speaking to this discourse that's circulating online. I saw a TikTok, okay, and it brought up the same tension, she was talking about. It was two Black Americans on a podcast talking to two Black British people. And one of the Black Americans was like, one of our listeners is asking, is it okay for Black Brits to, speak on, things that happen, in Black American culture, things that are happening to Black Americans. And the other Black American was like, I don't see why not, And the clip conveniently cut any hot takes. It was really the staging of the question, and it was two Black American men, two Black British women. But why? It was interesting that even is coming up.
These lines are suffering.
And like I am here for I'm not one of these precious people that's like, stop, you can't say what British that's not true. That's not true. And like, you can speak to a certain kind of Black British sensibility. You can speak to a certain kind of Black Canadian sensibility. You can speak to a certain kind of Black Jamaican sensibility. You can speak to a certain kind of Black Haitian sensibility, whatever. And you don't need to qualify with the Black when you're talking about Jamaica or Haiti. These are predominantly Black nations, right? We're not gonna pretend like you cannot trace a pattern for the most part about how the Black people in those places, in those white dominant societies interact.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, let me just say, I am grateful to find a Black person from Britain, a Black person from Canada who strongly identifies as Black.
Yeah.
Right. And identification is also an important question to talk about. Like, because the thing about being Black in Britain is that you are Black, right? You are regarded as such.
Yes.
Whatever you want to identify as, you can play in La La Land all you want, right? Your individual sense of who you are means very little in a broader social context where people are but you're Black to me.
Yeah.
Like all the people, whether they're white, whether they're Black, whether they're neither of those, you're Black to me. And that's your sensibility of who you are is still being cultivated in that broader social context. Let us never forget that. Yep. Especially for anybody who would like to disqualify what this or that person is Black. If I live as Black my whole life, I bet you would try and tell me what the fuck
But also, like, the idea that a Black person in Britain wouldn't know anything about, I guess, racism, anything about what it's like they're in fucking Britain. Like, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Because the U.S. is nothing but little baby Britain.
Yes, out of all places, we're gonna say, can Black Brits speak to persecution? Like what?
They got to be called English is saved for the whites of that land. British is for all the colonial subjects. Yeah. That already tells you a very clear line is being cut. You're Black.
Yeah, exactly. So that's our way of saying, like, by the way, for us, what it means to be Black is to be regarded as Black in the world and be subject to the anti-Blackness that covers the globe.
Yep.
Okay, because you could be a Oreo and be black, right? Like, shout out to that video that we might,
That we
attach to
hopefully find.
that we could, if we just find it. You could be an Oreo and be black, okay, or you can be a proto black nationalist like Giselle, and also be deeply anti-black.
Yep.
It's too much to call Giselle a proto black nationalist, but
Yeah,
if
it
you,
is.
by the logic of double star, that's the pro is black we gonna get.
Right.
So the point is that, like, you might imagine yourself to be any number of things. You might attempt to represent yourself, but guess what? Whatever you say you are is not all that you are. Okay? How you are received in the world exceeds your conscious identifications. You are not totally transparent to yourself. The way you show up in relation to people is a function of how they regard you and how you think of yourself, right? How you're
1000%.
behaving to them and how they're interpreting you. I could walk through the streets and say I'm white all day. That would be delusion.
Yes. No, exactly.
actually
Ask
Dr.
Rachel
Phil.
Dolezal. The transracial people aren't accepting it for a reason, okay?
It doesn't work. It won't work.
So Rachel had several of them fooled over there in Spokane.
Yeah, so Rachel was living. Okay, let me just plug that Rachel Dolezal documentary. It is illuminating, but
It's sad. It's sad and bad for her
yeah,
kids.
yeah, the kids.
It's never fair. It's never fair.
Yeah, no, but yeah,
Okay,
I've learned a lot about Black Brits recently. My sister living in the UK, her boyfriend, a Jamaican Brit, third generation living in Britain. That man is black. That man and I disagree on many things, okay? But every argument we have, it's like this is a different perspective, but this is clearly a black perspective.
Yeah. And so I think the question, we might take up amongst ourselves, because what we've already established is, like, when we say black, here's what we mean, right? You are regarded as black in an anti-black world.
Yep.
Like, but by the way, blackness is not equivalent to Africa, but also Africa is not the indigenous name of that place. That too is a colonial legacy. They called it Africa from Leo Africanus. Okay. So anyway, when we talk about black, we live in this world, and when, as scholars, our sense of what this world is like, it technically begins in the 15th century. It begins in 1440 when when the Vatican decides that what will become Portugal, what is basically consolidated as Spain, has free reign over the people and things they find in sub-Saharan Africa. They, in fact, they're entitled to enslave them and take whatever they want. That's what the Pope says, Pope Nicholas V. Okay, so that's just a bit of historical context. That's what we mean when we say black. That's what we mean when we say this world.
Yep.
And we are also not taking for granted that what it means to be black in Britain, what it means to be black in the US, what it means to be black in Canada, what it means to be black in Haiti, Jamaica, Trinidad. Those things are not all the same, but the experience of anti-blackness is global. So there is a sameness. There is a consistency across those things, even if there are some details we can parse, even if we see that the way Black Americans tend to show up is different than the way Black Brits tend to show up. So now, regarding all those assumptions that we share in common, the question becomes, how do we draw the line? How do we draw the line, each of us collectively? How do we draw the line between the they and the us in they not like us?
Well, to start, it's not a line that conforms with national borders, because those very borders were enabled by the enslavement and the project of, making the thing called black a thing called black in the first place. So the anti-blackness transcends it. I mean, it feels like it's maybe a line about those who would understand themselves to share that experience, that experience of living as black, being regarded as black in an anti-black world, and those who don't, or would contest it, or would somehow try to qualify it, or mitigate it and say, well, that feels like one axis. But then, Kendrick is a vexed figure himself, so it's not clear what his sensibilities and interpretations are going into the song as well.
Because most often I would say, is an ambivalence. Like, it's rare that you see someone who is whole hog, like, no, I'm totally disidentifying, like a Giselle figure is very much identifying as being Black, but it's like, okay, what is she doing to harm other Black people? What about her presentation of Blackness is actually very anti-Black?
In fact, the subject of my dissertation is precisely to try to locate those instances on the basis of a sensibility I've been cultivating, living in the world and doing my research, on the basis of a sensibility I've been cultivating, that part of what reproduces the anti-Blackness of the world is this like mystification about what it is, right? Is this like having white values, white investments, a certain kind of whiteness imposed on us via slavery and colonialism, and well past, the institutionalized form of slavery and colonialism. Like this sense that we are holding on to white ideas about what it means to be well, to have a good life, to live in the world, to relate to people that are not obvious, that are not easily discernible, easily detectable. Is precisely the point of my research, to locate what I would call, white attachments. I will call them attachments, and they work on us, in us, through us, and in ways that are not conscious to us. So that's precisely the like theoretical basis of my work, to assume in one way or another we are all ensnared. Best case scenario, we become aware of it and reject it.
Right.
And reject the whiteness that has been forced down our fucking throats. Right? Like that for me bespeaks the prospect of a good world. That for me is the sign of like, oh, we might have a less ugly ass world if we could just shed these white attachments. Right? Like, and I'm saying that once, I cannot underscore enough, all Black people everywhere, everywhere you might find
Let
them.
me just stand up and say, me too.
Because exactly, and like our inclination to go, not me, is like, unfortunately, us too, you too, me too, him too, us too, all of us. And precisely what it means, the reason I can make that insistence is because wherever we ended up in the world is ultimately a function of slavery and colonialism. And that's precisely what it took to instantiate, to secure, to stabilize slavery and colonialism, and then the racial hierarchy that emerges on the other side of slavery and colonialism, right? The racial hierarchy that covers anti-Blackness covers the globe, because there is a taken for granted assumption, taken for granted as in not conscious to us, operative everywhere. Like, we might know, like, I could not be white. Woo! White be suffering whiteness, right? Like they're miserable. They are unhappy. They are competitive. They are antisocial.
The delusion. It's the delusion for me.
They are deluded. Okay. They can't dance, which is a way of saying they're deadened inside, right? There's a certain kind of devitalization.
Where's the joy?
That underwrites what it means to be white in the world. Like, and TikTok is not gonna let us say this, but this is my research TikTok. Okay.
Don't get this analysis.
So the point simply is like, best case scenario, we reject those things, but they are still operative in us as an effect of slavery and colonialism, as the persistent residue, the ongoing trace of slavery and colonialism. They work on us. Okay. Let us at least bond over that mutual. Maybe everyone won't take me up on that proposition, but like, better recognizing it happens to all of us, I think better positions us to have grace for even the Black Oreo among us who is repulsive to our sensibilities.
Yes. It's like, I can see how you got there. If we are swimming in anti-Blackness every day, for a Black person to display anti-Blackness loudly, it's like they just were open to this world.
They were the victim of this world, right? The especially vulnerable victim. And like, if you literally think about, like, ask any like unambiguous Oreo, right? Like, who anybody would agree. What was your childhood like? Well, I grew up around all white people. Oof.
Well, what a sad story. I had
Yeah, and it's like, to overwhelmingly white Catholic school in my childhood, right? Like, so it's not like I don't know that, right? Thankfully, shout out to moms, you know, what she did was cultivate the sensibility. Oh, they did that to you? That's racism, baby. That's racism. Let's go. Let's go. Now, it's unfortunate that one has to learn in the fire like that, but I'm beginning to understand how else do you learn? How else do you learn but in the fire?
Yeah, you literally,
Okay.
not me. I do not learn unless I'm on fire, okay? You can try and just nudge a lesson towards me. Nope, not happening. Nope, didn't see it.
Gotta light the match.
Better be loud and clear. Okay. Yes. So the point is that like the like adult Oreo was once a victim, was once just like vulnerable prey to white people. Oh my God.
And nobody was coming to save them.
And the feeling on encountering one of being like, oh my God, that's so pathetic, I feel like is a way of admitting like, I had a good fortune of someone showing me a Black community, a Black ass good time, a Black social context that saved my life. Like,
yes, that saved your life. Yes. No less than saved your fucking life. Yeah.
Yes. No.
Like this one out here, diluted.
Yeah. And okay, so speaking of this one, it's like I think we're getting closer to, you know, the question du jour, which is where does one draw the line? Because we might have grace and we might have understanding, but that doesn't mean we are going to put ourselves in close proximity to, you know, the most Oreo of Oreos, because that shit is painful. Like that shit
hurts.
We're in the academy, right? Like we where the Oreos go to thrive. Okay, like
it's their pageant. It's their pageant.
The academy is their pageant. The academy is their pageant, and it is fucking tough to be in the company of an like. I mean, let us know in the comments, please. Like, if you have this experience, and if you can account for the kind of emotional and psychic harm, for the like physiological harm it wreaks on you to be in the company of an Oreo, because it's just, oh, you hate yourself so much. Oh, like it makes it hard to breathe.
And it's also a pain of like, oh my God, I can't be in proximity to you because like your condition is so far gone. It's so like pitiful. It's like pitiful in a very sad, like that is a level of living with a kind of traumatized sense of the world that I can't even be in proximity to it because like, I'm afraid, what if I get too close to it? What if it starts to sound too reasonable? You literally, as are the parrot of the anti-Black world, unfiltered, unchecked. If I start letting you reproduce just what the world is already saying, amplified, that is my protection.
The world's anti-Blackness is already turned all the way up. The volume is on the loudest thing. It's already amplified. So the best hope of like keeping yourself protected from it is to try to leave it over there. Don't watch a show with too many white people with too much white sensibility. Don't be around
Gerard Carmichael.
Literally, Gerard needs. Well, let me not even say what I was about to say.
We can't go down the Gerard.
No. But what I was gonna say too about, I think Kristen was making this point, but Ellen like made the summary of like, oh, you hate yourself too much. Like I can't be around that. For me, I don't mind being around people that hate themselves, but when it's like, and the part about themselves that they hate is me. No.
Yeah. Well, if you ask me, and this is precisely my work, like the like when one traces the line of self-loathing, it always leads back to that.
Yeah.
It always leads back to that. Even when it's not unambiguous as it is in the case of the Oreo. Like, you know, anyway, we don't have time for me to make that, for me to corroborate that claim.
Right.
But anyway, that's just what I mean by that. And I think like to this question of like, okay, so for instance, we have some mutual friends. Oh,
I was just gonna, it's not that in the humiliation of themselves, to your point, I also am being humiliated. And that's a part that it's like, no, I actually need to protect myself and continue about our mutual friend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so let's flesh out what this means through the example of our mutual friends. Okay. So we have a mutual friend named Ivan. Okay. And then we have a mutual friend named Daisy. I think y'all know who I mean by Daisy, right? We
No, but I'm lit to see in the comments.
That will reveal itself.
Yeah.
Okay, Daisy. Okay. So for me,
Okay,
now
I know who Daisy is.
when I met Daisy, I said, get somebody else to do it because I had to get somebody else to do it because
I got no
I
Daisy.
said, no, I don't need this right now. Like, and right now is an important consideration, like where one is, like what one can bear at a certain moment, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is, like, I, more or less, like, I more or less, from circumstances not totally of my making, found myself in relation to Daisy. And I was like, but you know what, Daisy? I said, Daisy, I can't get too close to you. This is what I said to Daisy, first of all. Daisy, I can't get too close to you because you're too anti-Black. If you are gonna keep saying nasty ass anti-Black shit, screw your face up when I talk about fried pork, which is Haiti's national dish, by the way. If you are going to do all of this shit, if you are going to assail my very existence at every turn, I can't rock with you,
exactly.
Daisy. And Daisy said, okay, but I don't want to be like this. Daisy,
and this is, I'm going to intervene on a mutual friend Kristen and I have. Her name is Ellen. Ellen loves a project, okay?
So do you. So do you.
Okay, be quiet, be quiet. But just for the purposes of this story, I do love a project. Okay, anyways, but that's important, as much as she's saying, not me, I don't have time. She was, she was in talks with Daisy. All right.
I usually like a home decor project, but I will take all manner of projects.
You said I'm gonna have an interpersonal renovation instead.
That's what it was. No, that's what it was. And to be honest, as like, here's the grace, the empathy, which we should talk about. But like, I could not relate to Daisy. Daisy's from a very white place. I'm from New Jersey. If I went to an all-white Catholic school and I was from a town that was like, it was almost half and half, to be honest. My town was almost half and half. Thank God. Actually, it's more like half and half now, and it was a little less half Black. But that is a phenomenal level. Like, to be in the Northeast. Okay, I'm from New Jersey.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I'm not from white middle of America, surrounded by white people on all sides. But Daisy was.
And see, let me say about Daisy, I used to not have grace specifically for those people. I used to feel very much like, so you knew from an early age how hate-filled, you wanted to be like the people that abused you 24/7. But I've grown to see.
That's wildly insensitive. It's children we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's children, right? Somebody's Black parent dragged their, didn't drag, the child was born in the middle of white America. Like, if you think like that, which, like,
yeah,
I'm old in Caulfield, I'm always like, where the kids at? We got to protect them, right?
Yeah.
So when I think about the child Daisy was, when I think about Daisy's life, I said, oh no.
Yes. And let me tell you
about Daisy's Black parent who, as we just laid out, the condition of Blackness is this global experience of anti-Blackness that saturates everything. That means Daisy's Black parent willfully went into that white context. Willful, I guess, is a word we should hold into suspense, but or hold in suspense. But it's just like there was a drive to be among the whiteness that the parent took seriously by virtue of being in an anti-Black white world. And in order to actualize or achieve what the good life, what success, what, desire, what all the good things are, according to this modern world and its dictates, the parent went into that white, terrible space, I can't.
Yeah, which just means they had it forced on them and had very few resources to resist it, which it's harder for me to be generous, have grace for the parent who does that to the child, especially when you drop the child in the like when you choose the white partner you choose is the most like, oh, they're not racist. Why? Because they chose you.
Yeah, no.
People really think that.
Because Daisy is raised by a racist white mom, right?
Yeah.
Like, so then when Daisy as a grown-up is like, I've been trying to not be like this. I've been trying to like free myself from this thing that I was imprisoned in, right? Like, I'm like, oh dang, I can't hold that against you, Daisy. Like,
I would have been all into. I can't even lie. Yeah.
Huh?
I said I would have been all into. I can't even lie.
But it's like you're on probation because at the end of the like, and even if I think about that too hard, it feels selfish to say you're on probation because I'm like, I can't do it. You know, like it's like I'm being very protective of myself to say that I can't do it, and it's like
look at the double bind there, because who other than a Black person who unfairly suffers the burden of
woman.
Blackness in the anti-Black world, who other than a Black woman who uniquely suffers the paradigmatic position of being the most debased according to the world would look at somebody else who's saying, I didn't choose to be, born into that context and I want to be different. Like, you can identify with the choicelessness is what
because Daisy is a Black woman too. Like, and frankly, Daisy is an unambiguous Black woman, right?
Yes.
So it's like, because you could be like, I mean, should we introduce the concept of mixed chickery? Because you can be what we call a mixed chick, which is to say the tragic, it's a way to refer to the tragic mulatta. And you can have two Black parents as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So Daisy is here like, okay, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, okay, at the end of I gotta have grace for Daisy. So what I'm
if somebody says I want to change, I will always take that up to a certain extent.
Yeah, because even though it's like it was my mom who was like, that's racist. But like there were other ways. Why did my mom put me in a school with mostly white people in the first
to
place?
begin with? Yep.
Yeah. So thankfully, when I could like get away, I was still in the all white school, and I said, "Oh, you know what? I peep, and I don't fuck with y'all, and I will never."
Yeah.
And I'm an 8. I have conviction. When I decided never again, I stayed away from like you would not catch me in a group with 2+ white people. Okay, I was just in class, like sitting at the door. Sitting near the door prepared to run. Okay. So the point is that like, but then then I had a Black woman sociology teacher in high school who was just like, this is the world. And I said, oh, thank God I will have met this woman. Every teacher I will have had along the way, the teacher could have even been white, who will have named the truth about the world. I said, thank God for that person. It's why I have this job, right? Thank God for that person. So in light of that, I'm just like, I feel an intense amount of gratitude, but also debt.
Yeah.
Like, if a Black woman called Daisy, who just happened to be born to a racist white mom.
And when you give that context and the Black father running to the white space, Daisy didn't stand a chance, So then why, as another Black woman, will I punish Daisy when Daisy is reaching out for help? But to continue with the Daisy story.
Yeah, the point is like, Daisy, you're going to go through Black boot camp, but I can embrace you, right? But I can embrace you. So my line is like, when Daisy shows up, like screwing her face up at what I take for granted as just like, because we didn't speak to what Blackness is in a cultural sense, because I'm not invested in drawing the lines around culture, because the culture of Britain is different than the culture of America, is different than the culture of Toronto, is different than. I'm not invested in drawing those lines. But when there is a certain one knows, especially if you're from the same place, what signifies as Black. If I say fried pork is the national dish of my people and you screw your face up, I said, bet I'm not fucking with you. But so I have to overcome the pain, the difficulty of dealing with that, and then go, okay, but you're trying. And I won't do it silently. I won't just let Daisy say that shit. I'll be like, Daisy, that's anti-Black, because Daisy's asking also to be freed from this prison. Daisy is asking to be embraced by Black people, whereas, whereas throughout her childhood, she was kept from Black people.
Right.
So
Arrested Development.
Mhm. So I'm gonna be knocking on Daisy's door, like, Daisy, and I'm not just gonna say that's anti-Black. I mean, I'm well positioned as somebody who does this for a living. I'm well positioned to be like, Daisy, let's think about how you have, honed a sense of anti-Blackness as a reflex, because that's ugly,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Daisy. I will embrace someone like Daisy, even though it's difficult. Even if initially I go, hell no, stay away from me. To the extent that Daisy says, I don't want to be like this, gives expression to that, I'm gonna have to embrace Daisy.
That's a big difference. I mean, that's almost like a coin of admission or something.
Yeah.
Yes, and if somebody is walking around, just in general, walking around the world like in good faith, like I feel inclined to take them up on what they're saying,
Exactly. Because what Daisy is saying is, I suffer this thing.
Yes.
I'm a Black woman. I suffered the anti-Blackness I have internalized from my mom, from my dad who went and chased after this white lady. Like, I suffer this thing.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, how can I not see you when you're suffering?
No, exactly.
Like, I stand no chance of self-love if I don't get some help. Like, obviously the world is going to assail me. Like, can I at least cultivate something like a regard, a love, a sense of worth for myself?
How does a child learn to love themselves except by having themselves mirrored, reflected in the people who are their primary caregivers?
I'm going to say two things. One, I thank God every day that I taught middle school, because I was so much more cold-hearted before that experience. Now I actually agree with every point you're making about Daisy. Two, now that we've rehabilitated the figure of Daisy, let's talk about another mutual friend. Okay. Let's talk about Ivan.
Ooh.
Okay. Ivan, also unambiguously Black. Ivan, I met at a time thinking, oh, this is the other Black person in this space I'm about to be in. Obviously, Ivan and I will be best friends.
How'd that go?
Over time, again and again. It also started off slow. I don't think it would have been over time had it not been COVID, but it was, through repeated hangouts, I come to find that Ivan is always not only choosing white people over me, but also like he's humiliating himself, debasing himself in a spectacular way in front of these people. And I am standing next to someone who's calling themselves, literally, I was in a situation, he's calling himself repeatedly a pickaninny. And nobody's responding because these white people have, like liberal sensibility of like, whoa, what? Like everybody's just like, what? And it's like, again, so it's repeated again. It's repeated again. That is very different. That was someone who said, oh, I'm interested in being in a Black Studies reading group. We need to be doing this. I'm interested in blah, blah, blah. But that's all, we're in an age where it's cutting edge and topical to be in Black Studies. 20 years ago, a lot of these mixed chicks would not have been in Black Studies.
Touche. Yeah, because like we won't talk about why, but can you give us another example, like in case that didn't land well enough, right?
Pickaninnies didn't land well.
Sort of like self-debasement that Ivan is invested in, or the humiliation of other Black people around.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give one story. Kristen doesn't know this story.
Oh no.
This is this woman was a Black woman called a nigger by a white gay at dinner with another white gay. So it's two white gay men and her. Okay.
What the hell?
Yes. And called nigger. It was, I mean, she was, but it was the white gay man that said it was like kept repeating this one, woman is the nigger of the world, very provocatively looking at her. Oh, they're at dinner with three people, and why are you so, what are you doing? What do you think this is?
Did you catch that? The point, woman, right? Woman universalized, which just means white, is the nigger of the world. That's the point. In order to say,
Literally, so what about me as a Black woman? Like
Exactly. So
like what you know what I'm, like what of that position then, sir? In the logic of
and I mean, like that to raise that question is to extend a bit of credit to the speaker, to the white speaker, that like, oh, they had a point to make. And I think the point was actually secondary. I think
the point was tertiary. The point was there was
tertiary, tertiary.
Yeah.
What was primary was to say nigger in the face of this Black woman.
It was titillating.
And what will you do?
Yep.
And what will you do?
And what will she do? She went home. Next morning, she woke up, wrote emails to the important people in the department, like, hey, what are the ramifications here? And she named not only the man who did this, but the man who sat there and said nothing. Okay.
Was that man Ivan?
No,
Nope.
It was Ivan's friend. Since then, Ivan has, mind you, that story goes crazy. I just found out how this woman has been retaliated against, like police wellness checks in the middle of the night sent by, yes, like.
Sent by who?
By the woman is the nigger of the world man. Yes.
What? How was
that? And now pretending to care about your well-being and therefore authorizing police terror.
Police knocking at her door.
That is primary. It's I can weaponize and direct the police. Look at
all hours. It was always in the middle of the night.
Oh.
And I just found out about I just pieced this story together. I found out in the piecing together that Ivan had known about this. So I was surprised that he knew about it. But then I was shocked to find not only had he known, but he was further debasing this Black woman, talking about how dare she try to ruin the life of the white gay bystander. And it's like, yo, I can relate to being a bystander, but when you're called out, you were wrong. Why are you defending someone who is clearly wrong? This is like, what?
Wait, Ivan was talking about ruining the life of this white man?
Yes.
Not the one who said it, right? Like, because that would be too openly egregious, although Ivan is not above egregious anti-Black behavior.
Yes.
But the person who just nodded along, woman is the nigger. Yeah.
That resonates with me.
Yes. That's the person who Ivan wants to protect.
He said, how dare she? How dare she ruin his life?
We don't have time to elaborate this story.
Yeah.
Another instance, Ivan is like, ask a Black woman, braid my hair. Braid my hair. And then when the hair is braided, braid it like this, braid it like this, braid it like this.
Braid it like a pickaninny.
Yeah, so that it's sticking up.
You know, what is it? Uncle Tom's Cabin, where Topsy is? Or
yes, it was Topsy, yes.
Museum.
Yeah.
Look who I am, a character from a racist slavery era story, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah. So
Ivan will invite the whiteness intimately close and into his, friendships, relationships, sexual relationships, and perform the most debased caricature of Blackness that he can conjure at any given moment.
And then we'll position Black friends, right? Like Katherine, we'll position Black friends in space. We'll be like, come to my house. You get there, it's all white people.
Yes.
And then it's a setup by Ivan so that he can rope you into the humiliation.
Yep.
It's almost as if he's doing the bidding, whether explicitly requested or not, of
Yeah.
the
And
people.
people might not believe such a character is real. They
Because
might not.
it's so, he is the Gerard and I am Gerard's father.
He's
Like I'm sitting there like my head down, literally.
No, now can I go home now?
I know, yes.
No, it's the, but guess what, everyone? Guess who this character is akin to? And maybe we'll say there's a radical enough difference such that because we invoke Ivan to say, I tell me if you all, I'm speaking for all of us when I say Ivan is the line.
Yeah.
For Ivan, I have no grace. Ivan, at this point, you have shown yourself. I'm casting you out. They not like us. You specifically, please where's the what's it called, the racial draft? We don't want him. Please. We don't want him. Take him away. Draft or not, take him away.
The thing about a figure like Ivan and why I can confidently say not like us is because it's not, it's like other people I'm reading. Okay, you might have other people, including myself. Okay, there's this internalized white supremacy, blah, blah, blah. But there's nothing that's like Ivan is saying it. Ivan is like, this is my preference. I hate Black people.
He's not even singing it. And singing is important because it's spectacle.
Yes.
Yeah. And when I tried to say one time, because Ivan's white boyfriend is also incredibly anti-Black. When I tried to say, because Ivan's white boyfriend was like laughing at someone Black, just to be a, troll, I said, Ivan, your boyfriend is being inappropriate. Ivan said, oh God, Ellen's gonna cancel me. Yep. I said, okay, bet. So in other words, when it is brought to your attention, because you were probably just like a prisoner, you're probably captive in your white mom household, okay? Mm-hmm. But when I then try to intervene to show you that's not okay.
Yep.
This is what you give me. There's no saving you, not without enormous risk to too many Black people involved. So bye.
Well, okay, talk about enormous risk to too many Black people. He is now proclaiming himself to be in his Clarence Thomas era.
Okay. See,
I have more respect for Clarence Thomas than for Ivan, I must say.
Well, yeah. Yeah. There it is. Okay. But what I want
wait, let Kristen have something to say.
It feels like it's because for that person, whereas Ivan and Daisy might suffer on similar registers somewhere, it seems like Ivan has so crossed his wires of pleasure and pain, of dignity and debasement, of respect and self-worth, that he actually can't separate, like make a difference, like make the affirmative statement that Daisy made. I want to change. I don't want to do this anymore. This makes me suffer. Ivan can't get clear with him.
Which just means that his abuse as a child was that totalizing. It was that totalizing, but I know that, and I'm sorry. I turned my empathy off when I said that. Because normally if I was speaking to when I first recognized it, I was still, oh no, for Ivan, but I can't for Ivan anymore. I turned it off. Because Ivan has not expressed I want to do otherwise. And Ivan will try to drag everyone.
Ivan's actually leaning in. Leaning in.
But I want to raise a figure that might also be comparable. Ashley Darby of RHOP. Because for me, Ashley Darby is actually that figure. Now, I don't know what it would be like to relate to Ashley in real life. Because there's an Ashley we see on camera and what I am understanding, an Ashley that happens off camera. I don't know what Ashley off camera is.
Honestly, most of the housewives, I do think in real life I would like better. Ashley's one that I actually think I would like even less.
No interest.
Like Robin and Giselle, I think in real life, in passing, it'd be whatever. But Ashley, it would be like, ugh.
Yeah. What I would do is try once to intervene on Ashley, like, hey, Ashley, you're incredibly anti-Black. And I know none of the women on the stage are well positioned to do that for her, to her. But I'd be like, hey, Ashley, the way you show up, like, you aren't saying anything explicitly anti-Black, but you feel deeply driven to me by anti-Blackness. Like you identify Giselle as the whitest one in the room, the whitest with the most power one in the room, and you ingratiate yourself to her. You latch onto her.
And Giselle is the patriarch, the clear patriarch.
That's right. Yeah. You identify the Blackest ones in the room, and you move to shit on them at every turn.
Yeah.
To help the whitest one in the room shit on what you regard as the blackest ones in the room, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna point that out to you once. I'm gonna give you one time. I mean, this is me having watched her for 8 seasons. I'm gonna point that out to you once, and then check how you. And I'm gonna be generous, because obviously, if I say it a certain way, you're gonna get defensive. Actually, I might not be generous. However,
I don't
you
know. It
respond,
depends.
okay, then I've written you off. Because where I'm at with Ashley right now, I have this much. You can't see, but there's a small gap there.
Oh.
I have that much to give her before I decided you are in Ivan territory.
Yeah.
Because what I do is I give people an opportunity to account for themselves first.
Yeah.
And then I go, yep, never mind. Not like they totally, people are not rational actors, right? It's not like they know what they're up to at all times. But for me, it's like, all I can do is draw my lines where I draw my lines.
And I think this is why Potomac and Housewives in general is such a like useful text. You know, we talk often about the show being a useful text to read. It's not, you know, we're not over here supporting people like dismissing reality for being, oh, that's dramatic or it paints black women. No, these are character profiles, right? And yes, it is mediated. We're not getting the full truth. This is not like, there's no such thing as like documentary evidence, right? But like, this is very much mediated, but it gives us a chance to clarify and get clear what some of these lines are. Like, thank you, Ashley Darby, for being the nasty anti-black troll you are. It makes me clear when I encounter an Ivan that I'm like, I've seen this before. Or, you know, it becomes like a rubric where you can be like, oh, wait, this kind of person I've seen before. I know this pattern. This is probably operating here. The anti-blackness is probably motivating this person. Like, it's just, it's a useful way to begin to understand the world.
And I will say, like, you know, it's very useful. And this may be because I'm from the DMV, maybe because I have a white mom and this show is light skins running around. But I think that, yeah, I feel like, you know, this is one of the most relatable housewives. And it's also partially because everybody's hating on them for not having the wealth that other franchises have. It's like, yeah, these are regular middle class women running around a major city. This is how people live.
Yeah.
By the way, everyone, not for nothing, look at what the path to wealth lands you, Drake. Dare I say, Beyonce? Oops.
Oh, I like that one.
Oops.
I would never drink baby's blood, but we're gonna wrap it up there.
The light of the hair, the light of the skin, the light of the hair.
All right. To be continued.